we go. Good evening. It is now 6:01. I call the special meeting of the San Benito County Planning Commission to order. Thank you for attending. If we could please have the notice of temporary procedures read.
The San Benito County Planning Commission welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the commission via Zoom, phone, or in the chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside for the record. Please address the commission as a whole through the chair. If participating on Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the Raise Hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press star 9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If participating in person in the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item on which you wish to speak, and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance. Thank you.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Rodriguez, if you could please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, if we could get roll call, please.
Robert J. Rodriguez II, District Number 1.
Present.
Richard Way, District 2.
Present.
Robert Scagliotti, Vice Chair, District Number 3.
Present.
Robert Gibson, Chair, District Number 4.
Present.
Devin Pack, District Number 5.
Present.
Thank you. Certificate of posting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the certificate of posting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a couple of seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries 5-0. Consent agenda. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
There's a second.
I'll second.
Devin seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Regular agenda. Public hearing, Resource Management Agency, Abraham Prado. This is for the commercial development use permit for the Bettabell project.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, members of the audience. Good afternoon. Abraham Prado, Assistant Director of Planning and Building Services. Good to be with all of you this afternoon. What we will do is staff is going to present an overview of project description. Then we will turn it over to our environmental consultants, Alta Cunningham and Pat Angel of Accent Environmental, to talk about the EIR process, and then it will come back to staff in regards to the recommendation. And we do have a PowerPoint up in the screen as well that will help us go over the slides. Thank you so much. So the project is located at 9644 Bettabell Road in the unincorporated area of San Benito County. It's located 2 miles south of Sargent, located 4 miles north of San Juan Bautista, and the intersection of US 101 and 156 is located approximately 3 miles to the south. Property is bordered to the east. There's Bettabell Road and also US 101. To the north, we have an RV park, as seen on the screen. To the south and to the west, agricultural and open space. And the Pajaro and San Benito rivers are located to the west and south of the property. The project site is outlined in yellow and would develop 26 acres of the approximately 112-acre site, and that the total area is outlined in red, but the development aspect of the project is outlined in yellow on the screen. The next slide will focus a little bit more on the project site. The northern portion of the project site is currently being developed with a farm stand, approximately 6,800 square feet, and that's finalizing, or it's completing development at this point, and also a 900 square foot restroom building with a septic tank. And the central area to the west, there is an existing 7,141 square foot greenhouse plant, native plant nursery. The project proposes a range of new commercial, lodging, and recreational uses on the 26-acre site. The design of the project would be reminiscent of the 1940s and 1950s American roadside. And at build-out, the project site would develop 108,425 square feet of commercial space, consisting of a gas station with a convenience store, a restaurant, amusement buildings and with exhibits, a motel with an outdoor pool and an outdoor movie screen, and an outdoor event center as well. In order to facilitate the project, the applicant is seeking 2 approvals, which consist of the EIR certification required by CEQA and a conditional use permit. The proposed convenience store and gas station, service station filling area is more towards the northern area of the site. And as you can see on the screen, the convenience store is at the northern point, and then right next to that, to the south, would be the proposed service station. The height of the convenience store is would be up to 15 feet, building size. The size is approximately 5,000 square feet, and it would provide snacks, groceries, beverages, ice, and similar products. The gas station would be approximately 5,664 square feet and will have 8 double-sided pumps. And both the convenience store and gas station propose to have approximately 16 full-time convenience employees. So to the south and west of the gas station, there is a proposed restaurant. The height of the building would be approximately 16 feet, the size approximately 2,500 square feet. It'll be a dine-in and drive-through with outdoor seating. And the hours of operation are expected to be from 6 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. And the proposed number of employees is 24. To the south of the proposed restaurant and to the south of the existing farm stand, there is going to be 4 to 5 what's being called as amusement buildings. They're going to range in size from 375 square feet to 1,250 square feet. The height of the buildings would be 10 feet. And what will contain on these buildings would be amusement attractions such as retail, curio items, rural-based vintage exhibits. To the southeast of the amusement buildings would be an open space buffer area. And the size of this buffer area is approximately 1.5 acres, and it would be made out of decomposed granite. And the uses for this area is overflow parking, staff parking, or for events such as small musical performance, food truck gathering, craft fairs, community and charity events that can potentially bring 250 people or attendees, potential farmers market that can have potentially 350 attendees, potential for car shows, holiday celebrations, crafts festivals that can have up to 500 attendees. Within that open space buffer area, there would be a visitor center, and the size of that is 350 square feet, and it will be in the design of a watering can, as you can see on the screen. And the purpose of that is just to provide general information to the public and information on landmarks, activities, events in San Benito County. The hours of operation would be 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Wednesday through Sunday, and it would mostly be operated by volunteers. To the south of the open space buffer, we'll have a proposed 3-story motel, and to the northwest of that, it would be a single-story 9-room villa. The size of that motel would be 60,350 square feet with the proposed 116 rooms. The design of the building is Spanish Revival, 3 stories as mentioned, have a lobby area, outdoor pool and spa, sundry sales area, minimal bar area, and hotel and office. And some of the features include a small drive-in screen to the west or to the rear of the hotel. And it would be away from Highway 101. And there would be movies that would be projected on that screen that will end by 10 o'clock, and guests of the hotel or motel can view from their rooms and or from vehicles parked in the rear of the hotel. The hours of operation, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they estimate 75 employees for the hotel. To the south of the motel is the outdoor event area that's being proposed. And the outdoor event area may fit up to 500 people, and it can be used for educational presentations, cultural events, music events, live performances, and theater events, and similar uses. Hours would be from 5:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. and mostly on weekends. To the west of the undeveloped buffer area in the center, it's a proposed animal livestock corral. And the size would be approximately 10,300 square feet. And this is mainly to maintain the agricultural and rural integrity of the area. And this site would also be operated by volunteers. The rest of the area, mostly outside of the project site, will comprise of approximately 80 acres. And it will include 2 retention ponds, a livestock corral, a greenhouse, 2 well sites, and no other development is being proposed in that area. Site access would be via 6 driveways along Bedabel Road, as you can see on the eastern section of the site. And there would be approximately 416 new parking spaces, including American with Disability Act parking and electrical vehicle charging stations as well, parking throughout the site. On the landscaping, there will be Coast Live Oak, Coast Redwood, Aptus Blue, and California Sycamore, mainly along Bedabel Road. And then throughout the project site, we'll see other types of trees: River, European Beech, Crepe Myrtle, Saratoga Laurel, Southern Magnolia, and Swan Hill Olive throughout the project site, along with bushes and ground cover as well. And the project site will meet the model water efficient landscape requirements from the state for drought tolerant and water efficiency. Regarding the general plans, the proposed project is consistent with various general plan, land use, and economic development goals and policies. For example, land use policy 5.2, new commercial thoroughfare nodes. The county shall encourage new commercial thoroughfare nodes as shown on the land use diagram, serving travelers and tourists along state routes. Land use policy 5.6, visitor-oriented commercial uses. The county shall encourage visitor-oriented commercial uses that promote the local history, local economy, agriculture, wineries, recreation, and market locally produced agricultural products. Economic development policy 5.3, the county shall encourage the creation of sporting tournaments and entertainment events such as cycling, baseball, soccer, field hockey, tennis, golf, art, and wine festivals, and outdoor concerts. And economic development 5.4, destination attractions. The county should encourage the development of destination attractions that celebrate San Benito County unique heritage, including contemporary performing arts, winemaking, culture, agritourism, and Spanish mission history. Zoning, the zoning is mainly agriculture, rangeland, floodplain. For the majority of the area that's outside of the project site, the development site, and C1 highway commercial combining district within 29 acres, basically encompassing the entire 26 acres of the development site, as you can see on the screen, on the map on the screen. And the zoning ordinance that was adopted by the Board of Supervisors on June 28 after it was recommended by your commission basically allows as permitted uses commercial agriculture, sale of agricultural products, commercial livestock, nurseries, outdoor display and sale of merchandise, and restaurants. And conditional use permit would be required for hotels and motels, bed and breakfast, and commercial entertainment. The Bedabel conditional use permit has project objectives that were outlined and described in the environmental impact report. And these are as follows. One is to honor the memory of Errol McDowell by generating revenues for the applicant to be used 100% for funding children's cancer research to cure childhood brain cancer. And This is Errol McDowell. It is the son of the property owners of the project. And so that is one of the objectives, to honor the memory of their son, Errol McDowell. And the other is to provide a one-stop roadside experience with visitor-oriented commercial uses that promote the local history and local economy. The other is to provide retail hospitality, automotive service, fuel station, and future local events to passengers driving along Highway 101. The other objective is to create destination attractions that celebrate San Benito County's unique heritage, including contemporary and art and performing arts, winemaking, culture, agriculturism, and San Benito history. And the other objective is to create new employment opportunities within the county for residents, which are vital for the economic health of the community, allowing the county to make the most of the commercial and tax potential of the only portion of the county through which the US 101 passes. At this time, I would like to invite Alta Cunningham from Extend Environmental to talk a little bit about the EIR, and then they'll bring it back to staff to close with the statement of overriding considerations and recommendation. Alta?
Thank you, Abraham. As he said, my name is Alta Cunningham. I'm with Ascent Environmental. We are the county's consultants. So CEQA requires for discretionary projects that an environmental impact report be prepared. And the purpose of that is to provide information to the decision makers and the public regarding the environmental impacts of the project. The EIR will identify ways to mitigate or avoid those impacts, and will identify and evaluate alternatives to the proposed project. The EIR process is a stepped approach, beginning with the notice of preparation and the scoping. You prepare and you revise your draft EIR, and then you circulate that draft EIR to the public and to responsible agencies for 45 days. They provide comments. The county and their consultants review those comments, address them, and we prepare a final EIR. The final EIR is circulated to all commenters 10 days prior to the decision hearing, and then the final step is the decision and the approval of or the CEQA findings. So just a few dates to show you where we are in the process. The notice of preparation was circulated for a 30-day comment period. It was released on April 21st through May 20th. During that time, 2 hybrid scoping meetings were held. So we were here in person. We also had the Zoom links, and those were on May 3rd and May 5th. And then the draft EIR was released for the 45-day comment period from July 22nd through September 6th. We released the final EIR on September 30th, and tonight we are here for the certification of the EIR and project consideration. So the EIR, this was a full EIR, evaluated a variety of environmental issues, including aesthetics, agricultural resources, air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, energy, geology and soils, greenhouse gas emissions, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, land use, noise, population and housing, public services and recreation, transportation, tribal cultural resources, utilities and service systems, wildfire, and then cumulative impacts and alternatives to the project. The environmental impact report concluded that there would be significant and unavoidable impacts. And those were in the areas of aesthetics. There would be damage to scenic resources, both on a project-specific level and under cumulative conditions. Under agriculture, there would be a loss of important farmland, again, both under project conditions and under cumulative conditions. For transportation, the increase in vehicle mile travels, project and cumulative conditions. And then for tribal cultural resources, there would be a significant unavoidable at the project level and under cumulative conditions. So for tribal cultural resources, consultation with the Amamutsan Tribal Band identified the Hurastak Tribal Cultural Landscape as a cultural resource that has been recommended eligible for the California Register of Historical Resources under 4 criterion. Criterion 1 is that it is associated with important events in history. Number 2 is that it is associated with the lives of persons who are important to local Californian or national history. Number 3 is that it embodies a distinctive characteristic of a type, region, or method of construction or engineering. And under criterion 4 is that it has yielded or has the potential to yield important information from the prehistory or history of the local area, California, or the nation. And you can see on the map on the screen, the area in green is the approximate boundary for the tribal cultural landscape that has been evaluated. And in red, you can see where the proposed project is situated in that landscape. In addition to the landscape, there are 5 additional resources that have been evaluated as eligible, and they are located inside that tribal cultural landscape. As I mentioned earlier, the EIR also looked at the alternatives that were evaluated. Alternative 1 was no project, no development at all, and that is a requirement of CEQA. You must look at the no project alternative as one of the options. Alternative 2 is the no project orchard and flea market alternative. This would be development that would be consistent with the current county use permit that applies to the project site. Alternative 3 would have a modified site design, which eliminates the motel component and the associated septic tank located just south of the motel. Alternative 4 is the reduced intensity alternative, which eliminates the outdoor event center and reduces the motel component to a 2-story building and reduces the number of rooms in that motel. Alternative 5 is the north site development, which would include only the gas station, the convenience store, and the restaurant. During the 45-day comment period for the release of the public draft, some of the common comments and the issues that were identified on the draft were related to project support and opposition. There were comments related to tribal cultural resources, biological resource impacts, specifically related to mountain lions and wildlife movement. There were comments related to greenhouse gas emissions and climate change effects. And then on water resources related to flooding, groundwater, and water quality. These comments were addressed in the final EIR. And I think that's back to Abraham.
Thank you so much, Alta. So, regarding the significant unavoidable impacts that Alta was referring to, these are impacts that no matter how much we could try to mitigate as a lead agency, there was the impact still was considered to be significant and unavoidable. And so CEQA guidelines, CEQA law requires that when there are identified significant unavoidable impacts that cannot be mitigated to a less than significant level, then the approving agency adopt a statement of overriding considerations. And this is provided in section 15093 of the CEQA guidelines. And basically what this is that the project that's being proposed for review and approval should have a balance of economic, legal, social, technological, or other benefits against the unavoidable environmental impacts. Essentially, that the benefits of the project outweigh the significant unavoidable impacts. And so the lead agency must make findings for these benefits to be presented to the approving body for their consideration. And so if the approving body feels that these findings are acceptable, then the a statement of overriding consideration can be and the EIR can be certified and approved. And so these findings within the statement of overriding consideration are as follows, and I'll go into them one by one. The project will provide a conservation easement. The project will provide a tribal cultural resources conservation easement. Promotion of San Benito County agricultural products and tourism. The project will generate positive tax revenue for the County of San Benito General Fund and San Benito County Council of Governments transportation projects. The project will create new local job opportunities for residents of San Benito County. The project will add photovoltaic electrical generating and electric vehicle charging facilities to help meet state and county greenhouse gas reduction goals. And the project will generate revenues, charitable funding for pediatric brain cancer research. The first finding, the project will provide a conservation easement. This easement includes the protection of a key linkage along the riparian areas of Pájaro and San Benito rivers. It's a protection of boundaries of the property for a wildlife migration corridor between the Santa Cruz, Diablo, and Gavilan ranges with safe passage under Highway 101 by way of the San Benito River Bridge. And the easement can serve as a model and basis for the County of San Benito to enlist the cooperation of adjacent landowners, Caltrans, private non-profit land trusts, and the counties of Santa Cruz, Santa Clara to fully protect the corridor. There's an image. If you can see here, the area outlined in blue is the project proposal where the development is proposed, and then the area in green is a proposed conservation easement area of approximately 62 acres. Finding number 2, the project will provide a tribal cultural resources conservation easement. This easement protects California Native American prehistoric, archaeological, cultural, spiritual, or ceremonial places. This easement is to be, it's actually to be granted to the County of San Benito, and then the County of San Benito can then grant it to the Yamamotan Tribal Band, and that's a California Native American tribe recognized by the California Native American Heritage Commission, and or the Yamamotan Land Trust, a California nonprofit corporation qualified under the California Civil Code Section 815.3 with permanent access for tribal members for ceremonial and native plant restoration activities, among other specified uses that currently are being dialogued between the project applicant and the tribe. And this is an image of that tribal easement. Three, promotion of San Benito County agricultural products and tourism. The project will provide a farm stand for sales of agricultural and vinicultural products raised, grown, and produced in San Benito County. The project will provide a tourist information kiosk to promote tourism to the cities of Hollister and San Juan Bautista. and also information on county, state, and national parks in San Benito County and other attractions within San Benito County, the wine trail, and hospitality priority areas for the traveling public passing through the county through US 101. Finding number 4, the project will generate positive tax revenue for the San Benito County General Fund and also for the San Benito County Council of Governments. The Bettable Conditional Use Permit project is estimated to generate $656,166 for the County General Fund annually by the year 2035, and $2,446,141 annually at full build-out. And the source of this is the Election Code 9111 report on the initiative to amend the San Benito County General Plan dated June 22nd, 2022, and supplemental letter dated September 20th, 2022 by Applied Development Economics, Inc. The Bettable Conditional Use Permit project is estimated to generate $183,866 for San Benito County Council of Governments for transportation projects annually by 2035, and $1,776,600 annually at full build-out. The estimated net revenues are from base property taxes, vehicle license fee, property taxes, mainly from all the different miscellaneous taxes of the project site. Significant additional net revenues are expected to be generated from property tax allocations to school districts as well. And the operations of planned commercial and hotel space will generate an ongoing economic impact on the local economy as tenants produce sales, pay wages to employees, and purchase goods and services from other businesses in the local economy. Finding number 5, the draft environmental impact report project description, section 2.4.6, estimates that there will be 115 new full-time jobs established for the operation of the commercial area. Employment establishments estimated are as follows: 24 for the restaurant, 16 for the gas station and convenience store, 75 for the motel, and additional staff for outdoor events and per event basis also are a part of, in addition to the estimated 115 new full-time jobs. And per the property owner, there will be a variety of jobs, including several entry-level for the youth of the county, as well as several managerial and also high-paying jobs in marketing, merchandising, advertising, security, restaurant, hotel, gas station management, and other broad hospitality industry. Finding number 6 is that the project will add photovoltaic electrical generating and electric vehicle charging facilities to help meet the state and county greenhouse gas reduction goals. And finding number 7 is that the project will generate revenues, charitable funding for pediatric brain cancer. And as indicated by the property owner, all profits other than sales and occupancy tax revenue projected to go to the county. All profits from the project will go into the McDowell Charity Trust, 501c3 charity to be distributed to hospitals and researchers endeavoring to cure children's cancer. The McDowell Charity Trust is devoted to supporting pediatric cancer research and curing children's cancer. There is additional information on the trust on organizational letter 02 from Ryder and Victoria McDowell Charitable Trust on the final EIR. And an additional 10 letters or so describing the charitable trust and the importance of pediatric cancer research from renowned doctors and experts in the field as well in the final EIR. With that, staff recommends that the San Benito County Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2022-11, approving the following: certification of the environmental impact report that evaluates the impacts of the development under the Bettable Commercial Conditional Use Permit prepared pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines, and adopt findings required by CEQA, adopt mitigation measures to reduce any significant environmental impacts where feasible as recommended in the EIR, adopt a mitigation monitoring and reporting plan, and adopt a statement of overriding considerations. And part 2 of the resolution before you is to adopt a conditional use permit for the Bettable Commercial development with the conditions of approval. That's all within Resolution 2022-11. The only additional condition that was added to the resolution was a condition that basically indicates that within the next 60 days, all of the cost involving the preparation of the documents and staff's time are settled within the 60-day period from today. So with that, we would be happy to answer any questions, and also we would like to indicate that the applicant is here, and the applicant has a few items to comment before the Planning Commission, if it is okay with you, Mr. Chair, and the Planning Commission.
Members, applicant.
Can you hear me? There we
Yes.
go. All right. Thank you, Planning Commissioners. Thank you, Abraham. Thank you, Ascent. Thank you, Joel. I really appreciate your time and attention this evening. My name is Peter Prowse. I am Land Use Counsel for the McDowells, for the project applicants on this project. I'm the managing partner of the San Francisco law firm Briscoe, Ivester, and Basil. I have just a few remarks that I wanted to make. I also wanted to introduce a few people to you here. With me is Casey Jerome. He's with the architectural firm Wald, Runke, and Dost, and I'm going to have him show you some of the architectural renderings in a moment. Also, not with us today. She intended to be here in person, but she is Holly Robertson. She's a partner at the Chronic Law Firm in Sacramento. Holly is our tribal consultation expert. She'd planned to be here in person, but she had to be in Lake County, where she's representing a tribe in what I understand is a last-minute urgent consultation to protect an imminent threat to a significant tribal resource up there. Holly's been at the forefront of successful culturally sensitive implementation of AB 52, the CEQA tribal consultation law, including at the governor's office, where she wrote the CEQA guidelines on tribal consultation. I wanted to give just a little bit of background on the project. You've heard from Abraham about the McDowell's son, Errol McDowell. This project really is in his memory and his legacy. He died of brain cancer, a rare form of brain cancer. His parents, his father, would drive him from Southern California, where they lived at the time, to UCSF several times a week, and they would pass by this project site multiple times a week. And Errol, this is what the site looked like when they were passing by. Amongst all of those structures, many of which Joel tells me were unpermitted nuisance structures, Joel saw something special. I'm sorry, not Joel. Errol saw something special. He saw the potential here. He wanted his legacy after he passed away to be funding the research that leads to a cure for children's cancer. And if successful, this project will be the largest source of private funding for children's cancer research in the world. It was a long road to get to this place. These buildings that you see on this figure had to be demolished. The site had to be cleaned up, and Herman Garcia and his organization Cheer, Herman is here, spent years cleaning up the property. I will add that not one of the groups that have submitted objection letters contributed to that cleanup. The project survived multiple lawsuits and initiative efforts over the years to get to a place where we could submit a permit application in the spring. Since then, under the leadership of the county staff, county counsel's office, and Ascent, the EIR firm, I should note I work with a lot of EIR firms, and Ascent is many cuts above the most of the EIR companies that I deal with. We have, I hope, gotten through to the permitting process to the decision-making point, which is where we are tonight. This has been a transparent and efficient and professional process, and I want to convey our sincere thanks to your staff for that process. I'm going to come back to me in just a moment, but I wanted to hand it over to Casey now to give you a little bit more detail about the specific project elements.
Thank you, Peter. So you've seen what the project looked like before Ryder McDowell got it. And the intent, the way it's been imagined has always been a 1940s and 1950s American roadside stop, reminiscent of a Route 66, where you can go, you can pull over, you can stretch your legs, grab a bite to eat, get some gas, go take your dog for a walk, and keep it a park-like atmosphere. Similar to a classic roadside stop, the project is located directly off Highway 101 via the Bedabelle off-ramp. Existing, there's only one other property, the RV resort, that uses that Bedabelle Road. The project consists of, as Abraham already did a great job providing, the project that we're proposing is a 5,000 square foot convenience store, 6,800 square foot farm stand with retail and kiosk space behind it, a 350 square foot visitor center shaped like a watering can, 68,000 square foot motel, including conference room and outdoor pool, and 500 seat outdoor amphitheater. The project intent, and let me show you a couple pictures. The project intent is to maintain a pasture setting with numerous old-growth trees that Ryan McDowell is actually growing on site. That will not only screen much of the paving and the required parking, but also provide a pedestrian-friendly atmosphere, as shown on the attached rendering, as well as your L1.1 of your EIR packet. This is meant to show on the right-hand side of your picture is the gas station, convenience store, as well as in the middle the existing farm stand, and then over far in the background of the picture is the 3-story motel. I got one picture of the proposed amphitheater. The amphitheater at the south end of the project is meant, as already discussed, is for outdoor events, local bands, things of the community that can come by and have performances. It's a very community-oriented facility, is how he sees it. As already discussed, the idea of craft fairs, promoting local arts and crafts, local events, performing arts, that sort of flair that has to do directly with San Benito County as a community. From a pure planning and zoning perspective, the project, we feel, is ideally located right off an existing off-ramp meant for this type of project. The project design is in compliance with all the required zoning uses, the heights, the height restrictions, the parking requirements and setbacks. There's no variances that we're asking for. Everything is per your guys' C1 zoning. And I have a couple other pictures that I'll put in the back, but if you have any questions, let me know. Peter?
Thank you, Casey. Just a few more moments, if you'll indulge me. I wanted to close with two other points. We have spent several months negotiating with the Amamutsan Tribal Band. They're here tonight, Chairman Lopez and his representatives. I did want to give a little context to the site in that regard. This is a property that has been in private ownership for perhaps 100 years or more until it fell into the nuisance condition that it was in when the McDowells purchased it. We did, during those negotiations, offer the tribe the use of the property for cultural purposes. We funded an on-the-ground resources survey where they took soil samples and as well as an ethnography done by consultants of the tribe's choice. Spent many tens of thousands of dollars on those studies. We changed the project design as a result of those discussions and negotiations. We removed certain trails that the tribe objected to accommodate their concerns. And along the way, we've offered a very significant easement, a tribal cultural resources easement of approximately 60 acres that we had hoped the tribe would have accepted by the time of this hearing. We could not reach agreement with the tribe, so we've now offered it to the county to hold. And if the tribe ever wants to come back to discuss the terms of that easement with us, we're willing to entertain those discussions. But there will be an easement subject to the Board of Supervisors' approval of the grant of the easement that we've offered. And I wanted to close just with an anecdote. I was visiting elementary schools for my kids this morning in Oakland, and I was sitting in on an elementary school classroom, 3rd grade, and the teacher asked the class, who are we honoring here today? And a 3rd grade girl stood up and said that today, she's honoring her little sister who died 2 years ago of cancer. And so that's who she's honoring today. It would certainly honor the memory of Errol McDowell for the Planning Commission to bless this project with its approval today. Too many families and children's lights have gone out too soon, and we hope that with this project, the light will shine a little brighter from San Benito County and for these kids in the future. So thank you again for your time and attention. We're available to answer any questions you might have, and we'll turn it back to Abraham. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we'll be happy to answer any questions, or if you'd like to open it up for public hearing first, it's up to you too. Thank you.
Is there any public comment in the chambers?
Yes, there's a speaker card, Valentin Lopez. Can you come to the podium, please?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Valentin Lopez, and I'm the chairman of the Amamutsan Tribal Band. I'd like to talk about the importance of Bedabel. Bedabel is part of the greater Uristock, and Uristock was the most important sacred and cultural site to the Amamutsan people who lived here for thousands and thousands of years. There's been remains found here near this location that date back 13,000 years, and our people were here well before that time. Uristock was the home of our spiritual leader, Kuksui. There's a number of cultural and sacred sites in that area. There's a sacred medicine pole to the east, a sacred medicine pole to the west. Those right there were used to indicate that this is a very sacred and important site. I want to talk a little bit about the history. Our tribe signed a treaty in 1851 with the federal government. We're not a federally recognized tribe today, but that's because the treaty that our tribe signed at that time was never ratified. The state of California asked the president and the Senate to not ratify that treaty, and the president ordered that treaty be sealed for 50 years. And our treaty was never certified. Several years back, Governor apologized for the genocide. for what happened to the indigenous people. That happened right here. They were paying bounty money in this county, and they were paying expeditions to hunt down Indians and to kill them. That happened right here in this county. That's our history. In that period, since that time, our people have been ignored, forgotten, and erased from history. And we're asking you to not let that happen. Please don't let the thousands of our ancestors who lived here be forgotten and ignored and erased from history. This greater area of Monterey and inland to here and north was the most populated area of indigenous people north of Mexico City at first contact. At Mission San Juan Bautista, a priest recorded that over 19,421 Indians died at Mission San Juan Bautista, and that was after 26 years. And that mission was to operate for another 10 years. Again, nobody knows our history. We've been ignored, forgotten. Our tribe has never signed away our land rights, our water rights, our mineral rights. These lands right here still belong to the Ama Mutsun. Every day you put your feet in the ground, when you get out of bed, you're putting your feet on land that is stolen from the Ama Mutsun. Senate Bill 18 was passed in the approximate year 2004.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't know we had time. I didn't see that time limit.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next speaker card, please.
Okay, Sarah Clark.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Clark. I'm an attorney representing the Ama Mutsun Tribal Band and the Ama Mutsun Land Trust. As we know, the property is part of the Uristac tribal cultural landscape. But what Ms. Cunningham failed to mention is that it is also the precise location of numerous tribal cultural resources. It's the site of the Isleta and Uristac village sites, dancing grounds. It's directly adjacent to Medicine Man Hill and the Meadowbell Bluffs. These resources were all described in the ethnographic study and the survey report that you received, hopefully yesterday, and have had a chance to read. And as a result, both to the landscape impacts and to the particular properties, this project will cause a significant and irreparable harm to the property and to the tribes. We have serious concerns about the analysis that was completed in the EIR, but we agree with the conclusion. This impact is significant and unavoidable. This means that the Planning Commission has full discretion today to deny the project. There are many sacred sites that have been lost, as Chairman Lopez articulated, due to genocide, land theft, broken treaties. You have the power today to right a historic wrong. We know that there are competing interests with the applicants. Peter made a impassioned plea about the applicant's intent to use this money for very noble and good causes. However, money can be made on other sites. These sacred sites are in one place, and they will be lost forever with the development of this property. I also wanted to mention briefly the tribal cultural resource, or tribal cultural conservation easement that is proposed for this particular project. The offer that Mr. Prowse mentioned came with untenable conditions for the tribe, which he failed to mention, and that's why we have not yet reached agreement on those particular terms, that would have limited their rights in this process. But nevertheless, we have an easement on the table, and we urge you to retain that easement in the approval of this project should you move forward with approval. It restores access to the site that has been lost for hundreds of years, and it is a feasible means of reducing this project's impacts, not having them eliminated entirely, but reducing them. Easements are routinely imposed for project development. Indeed, there are other ones associated with this particular project, and they're contemplated under CEQA and other aspects of state law. And if you do remove those particular conditions requiring the tribal cultural easement, we note that you must then recirculate the EIR for public comment. You must provide your findings and the statements of overriding considerations. It is not a matter to be taken lightly, and we urge you to first deny the project, but if you must move forward with it, then to impose the condition that is part of the environmental impact report. With that, I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker card, please.
Valerie Egeland.
Yes, thank you, fellow commissioners. I'm a little bewildered by the intent of the easement, since the trails along the Pajaro have been used for years, but the cleanup, the Pajaro has been a garbage dump, and it has been cleaned up, and there's no indication that indigenous peoples took any like responsibility for these areas. And as a kid living very nearby, we were at the river oftentimes, and I am not opposed to our indigenous population, which I honor greatly, has access and ceremonial possibilities, but I fear that it's an advantage taken that is going to deplete the restoration possibilities for that area to bring it back to its natural circumstance. And so I'm just worried about how that is going to be evolving, since it's an excellent project that has a lot of effort going into like first five education, bringing children in as an education center, restoring the flora and fauna, of making a respite for the weary traveler, so to speak, off the highway, to bring in tourism for our county. These are hugely overriding elements in my point of view, and I would urge that you do approve and move this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker card, please.
All right. All right, Barry.
Good evening. Actually, I only have one question. First, of the developer, why do you want to put a gas station on the site? In California, we'll be selling no more gasoline new cars as of 2035. So 20 years from now, in 2042, we'll have maybe half as many gasoline cars on the road, and we'll need half as many gasoline stations in the state, in the country, in the world, really. So why a gas station? It takes 10 years just to pay for it. And what is the benefit to the county long term? You're all on the planning commission. It's time we did away with all new gas stations. We have no need for any new gas stations in this county. And we certainly don't need to be. We're going to have to decommission all those stations. I'm afraid that smaller ones are going to go out of business. They'll be bankrupt, and that the taxpayer is going to get stuck with the burden of decommissioning and taking out the tanks and rendering the product possibly safe. I don't think we want to add to the number of gas stations in this county or anywhere in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speaker cards?
There are no more speaker cards.
Is there any public comment via Zoom?
Yes, there is. I'm going to go in order. Mary, I'm going to unmute you. You can speak. We'll come back to Mary.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much for letting me speak. My name is Mary Shaw Coran. I'm with the group Protect San Benito County. And this is in the spring, March, before March 2020, our group led a campaign, No on K, to oppose development at Bettabel, as well as 4 different locations on Highway 101. I want to remind the Planning Commission, it was 2 years ago, but a lot of people seem to have forgotten that 60% of our voters in our county oppose development at Bettabel, as well as other sites. Our friend Anne-Marie Sayers called it the sacred corridor. And I think that out of respect for the indigenous people, it's also a very important wildlife corridor. It's where the mountain lions from the Santa Cruz Mountains cross to the Gavilan. There's a lot of work right now on creating a crossing for the mountain lions. Um, so I think that these are some considerations you should think about. We don't think that having this development is appropriate. It's a floodplain. It's a very sacred site. It is also going to create a lot of congestion for people in San Benito County as well as surrounding counties. And I think that the EIR, the draft EIR, and the comments in response to it are not adequate to address some of the concerns. I wanted to mention that our attorney, Mark Wolf, has submitted a letter with concerns about, why this is not an adequate EIR and why we ask that the Planning Commission reject and deny this project and and support a no project alternative. Thank you very much, and please respect the will of voters of San Benito County.
County Council, for the record, for the public, could you clarify what Measure K was and was not? Just briefly, please.
Yes, Measure K was a referendum of a ordinance that adopted zoning regulations for C3 zoning for the 4 regional commercial nodes along Highway 101. The regulations that were proposed were rejected by the voters. The referendum did not cover the C3 zoning of the 4 sites, which was left in place. And so without regulations, various of the landowners filed applications with the county to rescind the C3 zoning and to adopt C1 zoning for the same areas, which have been approved. And so Measure K was limited in its effect to elimination of a zoning ordinance.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, is there additional public comment via Zoom?
Yes, I'm going to unmute you, Andy. You have been unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Andy Shaw Coron. I live in San Benito County, also with the group Campaign to Protect San Benito. With due respect to the county council, the campaign that was waged on Measure K was about development on Highway 101. That was from both sides, our side and the other side. It was the issues of the developments along the corridor that the people in this county debated and the people in this county voted on, whatever technicality the county council wants to try to argue now. 60% of the folks in the county, in spite of the fact that the other side had far more resources, voted to not go ahead with these developments. And I think basically what the county has been doing since then is trying to circumvent the will of the people on these issues. Now the county is trying to rush forward and get approval on this project without actually completing a thorough environmental impact review. There's still things the in the environmental impact review that won't even be completed yet. They're saying they're going to do it later. And I think that's thoroughly inappropriate for you to be moving forward and approving this project. I think that, as has been pointed out, this is incredibly important in terms of cultural resources, in terms of a wildlife corridor, in terms of the impact, especially cumulative impact by the county developing this corridor on the whole region. It also affects not just us, but the county south of us, Monterey County. So I think this is a rush job in order to get approval for this project, and I think that you should not move forward in doing that. Thank you very much.
Okay, Jackie T. Morris Lopez, you have been unmuted. Hello, Jackie. Jackie, you have been unmuted. Jackie, you can speak. You have been unmuted. Can we come back to Jackie?
Yes, of course. Are there additional
Yes.
hands up?
Jackie will come back to you at the end. Next is Donna Wallach. You have been unmuted. Donna.
Sorry,
Okay.
I had two buttons to unmute. Sorry. It is totally repugnant that Eurostok, this very sacred land of the Amamutsun tribal band, is under any kind of proposal for further desecration and destruction by this proposal. This land was stolen from the Amamutsun tribal band many, many, many years ago when they had no power to stop the theft. It is bad enough that already some of this land at Bedabel already has construction going on. This proposal should not be approved. There is no need for a restaurant, a roadside attraction, an amusement area, a gas station, or a hotel to be built on this very sacred land of Hurustak. Bedabel needs to remain as is so that the land, so that the animals and the plant life living there can continue undisturbed. And since history is finally being recognized of the massive genocide and land theft that occurred, the best option is to return all of this land to the Amamutsun tribal band so they can steward the land and go back to practicing their ceremonies there. Choose alternative one. No project, no destruction, no desecration of sacred Amamutsun tribal band land of Hurustak. Bedabel at Hurustak needs to be rezoned to be protected from desecration and destruction until the earth dies. Thank you.
Here, please.
Okay, Teddy Simon, I'm gonna unmute you. You're allowed to talk.
Good evening. My name is Teddy Simon. I'm a citizen of the Navajo Nation and the Indigenous Justice Advocate at the ACLU of Northern California. We have thousands of members throughout Northern California, including many in San Benito County and hundreds of thousands throughout the United States. At the ACLU, Indigenous justice means the freedom and ability of Indigenous people to exercise their sovereignty over themselves and their land. That includes the freedom to practice traditional ways of governing and being, the ability to teach and learn Indigenous languages and worldviews, and celebrate culture and lifeways. The exercise of that tribal sovereignty and cultural survival are intimately tied to the land. As you've heard, this is true for the Amamutsun tribal band, who since time immemorial before the time of contact practiced their sacred ceremonies, were sustained and nourished, learned their language, and stewarded the landscape at Eurostok. As the EIR itself states, the impacts to the Eurostok tribal cultural landscape are significant and unavoidable. The purported mitigation measures, as stated in the EIR, do not offset that impact. To desecrate the landscape at Eurostok would be to continue the long and ugly history of the nation and the state of California, a history of attempted genocide. The Amamutsun tribal band's resilience, that they have not only survived multiple waves of attempted genocide, but today are thriving and are leading efforts across our states to revitalize Native language, teach future generations their culture and lifeways, are incredibly inspiring and speak to the resiliency and strength of Native nations. We should honor and celebrate their leadership and respect their sovereignty, not advance projects that strike at the very heart of their existence. For people who survive the brutality of the mission system, it is almost incomprehensible to me that applicants are seeking to destroy the Amamutsun sacred landscape in order to build a Spanish revival style motel, along with a gas station and an amusement center. There are no overriding conditions that make this project acceptable. What overriding condition could make up for the desecration of an entire people's traditional cultural landscape? What overriding consideration could account for yet another attempt at the cultural genocide of the Ama Mutsun people on their ability to exercise their inherent sovereignty and exist as a people? We urge the San Benito County Planning Commission to deny this project. Thank you.
Greg Cotton, you're allowed to talk. There you go.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. How much time is there to speak?
3 minutes.
I'd like to request that Chairman Lopez be given an extension on his time because it was not expressed how much time we were given. Can we give him more time?
Would you like him to take your 3 minutes?
Statement?
No, there's no extensions. I'm sorry. Everyone has
It was
the same
not
amount of time.
Okay, it just wasn't expressed, and so I'd like to yield my time to him if that's acceptable, out of respect.
Okay. Mr. Lopez?
First, thank you, Mr. Cotton. I was talking about SB 18. I was talking about Senate Bill 18 that was passed in in about 2004. Senate Bill 18 required all counties or all government agencies to consult with Native American tribes to identify sacred and cultural sites as part of the general plan, so those can be identified and recognized for protection. We requested that we consult with San Benito County. We met with the county. And then when we met with them, we were told that they were not ready to consult at that time and that they would get back to us. They never got back to us. I checked several times with the county. I got no response. And then a short time later, they issued the general plan, the revised general plan, with no consultation. And that goes that is illegal and against Senate Bill 18 as it was passed. And that is a huge issue of what's happening here. If SB 18 had consultation would have happened, then we would not be here today. It would be recognized that's a sacred place, and it is recognized as such in the general plan. So the county has a big responsibility for what we're talking about tonight. Secondly, I want to talk about the ethnographic study. We requested an ethnographic study, and thankfully for the county and the developer, they agreed to do an ethnographic study. That ethnographic study, which I understand you got a copy, and I sure hope you read it, because that ethnographic study shows this to be one of the most significant cultural sites, not only in San Benito County, but in California and well beyond California. All the resources that are here and the sacredness of this area and stuff right here is clearly identified in that ethnographic study. If for the county to just ignore it, it's just an egregious behavior to just ignore that. Secondly, normally what is supposed to happen is that ethnographic study is supposed to be completed, and then those results are to be built in to the draft environmental impact report for consideration and for information. The ethnographic study, they released the draft environmental impact report while the ethnographic study was in progress. And that right there prevented the results of the cultural resources and spirituality as being a consideration for that comment period. And that is absolutely wrong and egregious again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Peter Broderick, you can speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Peter Broderick. I'm an attorney with the Center for Biological Diversity. The center is a nonprofit public interest environmental organization dedicated to the protection of native species and their habitats through science policy and environmental law. And the center has worked for many years to protect imperiled plants and wildlife and open space and air and water quality and the overall quality of life for people in San Benito County. And we urge the Planning Commission tonight not to certify this environmental impact report. As the center detailed in our written comments on the draft and final EIR, the county's environmental review for the project is just inadequate. The EIR did not fully disclose, analyze, and mitigate the project's significant impacts, including to biological resources. In particular, the EIR really underplayed the project's effects on wildlife and connectivity in the region, including to mountain lions, sensitive habitats, and corridors. And its proposed mitigation for these impacts is wholly inadequate. The county should also revise its inadequate analysis of wildfire and evacuation risk, especially in light of the Attorney General's new CEQA guidance on this issue, which issued this week and is available on the Attorney General's website. We encourage the county to consider it. So we ask that the county correct the deficiencies in the EIR and recirculate the document for public review and comment before it considers approving the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Colleen, you have been you can speak if you unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? I unmuted. There we am.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, thanks. This is Colleen Cabot. I'm a member of the First Unitarian Church of San Jose. Our church supports protecting the Amamutsan tribal band's Eurostock cultural landscape, of which Bedabel is a significant part. Along with churches throughout Santa Clara County and the East Bay and San Benito, we believe that protecting land is central to protecting Indigenous spiritual life. In order to protect religious freedom, we need to understand each other's points of view and values and respect their spaces and practices. The project objectives are seriously flawed by not mentioning the 10,000-year history of the Amamutsan at this site. The Bedabel project seriously compromises Amamutsan cultural values, as you've heard from the chairman of the tribe, and the DER process ignored the ethnographic report that would have given greater consideration to Amamutsan cultural values. The proposed development is on a scale and level of intensity that is not respectful of the sacred nature of the site. The permit for the Bedabel Road project should be denied, and we respectfully ask that you do so. Thank you.
Speaker, please.
Lou, you have your permission to talk.
Right. Thank you. My name's Lou Shermani Jr. My family's lived in the region since the 1880s. My cousin was a former mayor of San Juan Bautista, and I used to work in the field of cultural resource management locally. I'm speaking as a member of South Bay Indigenous Solidarity in opposition to the consideration of approval for the conditional use permit for the Bedabel commercial project. San Benito County voters previously rejected a commercial development at this site. It seems that the effort to approve a permit at this point in time probably has to do with Measure Q being on the San Benito County ballot in November, which, if passed, would require voter input regarding this particular project. The concerns of the Amamutsan tribal band regarding this project should be taken seriously. Any destruction of a particular ethnic group's paramount religious/cultural site could be considered a form of genocide, according to UN definitions of the term. It is still unknown what cultural resources or burials might exist below alluvial deposits at portions of the project site. The Amamutsan tribal band does represent a distinct living community whose ancestors never ceded the land that's impacted by this project. And to me, it seems odd that the DEIR was released prior to the completion of a comprehensive ethnological or ethnographic study for the site. Personally, I'm also concerned that efforts have already been underway regarding construction at the site have bypassed normal environmental regulatory procedures, in particular, the way in which as the property owner has described them, landfills were removed, seems to bring up a lot of questions from an ecological and cultural resource perspective. Personally, it seems that things have already moved a bit too fast regarding this project, and I do want to mention that my 51-year-old partner who passed away from cancer in 2021 was quite upset that this project was using cancer research as its main justification. There are other ways to raise funds there. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Jackie Morris, you're allowed to talk. You can unmute yourself.
Morris Lopez, resident of District 2, in which the district that this Bettable node commercial development is proposed. I just want to say wholeheartedly, I concur with the previous speakers, all of the points that they had made. And I think it's an egregious crime that this project will eliminate and destroy the Eurostack sacred ground and place that with a fake water can tourist building. That to me, and then an easement as a concession. That is equivalent to me of what was done hundreds of years ago with the indigenous people, with people that landed in their land and trading glass beads for them. I think we're better than this. And we did pass a measure, and the voters with over 61% said no to this project, to any commercial project. I am going to put a different spin on why I think this is also an egregious project. For all the obvious stated reasons by the previous speakers, I work in the field of medicine. I too, like the last speaker, cannot understand how this is being proposed as an homage. And it's sad that a family lost a child to brain cancer, but there are other ways to fund research. I also want to tell you a little bit about the history of this nonprofit that the McDowell family has funded. It's called Cancer A Go-Go. It's in line with a research lab in La Jolla, California, because the McDowell family is from Southern California. And I find it very hard to believe that a child is undergoing chemotherapy, that is driving on Highway 101 under the influence of chemo drugs and dealing with cancer, which is a horrific disease indeed. And I sympathize with the family for that loss. But how a child can actually look off yonder and say, this is a piece of land that I want in my memory. I just don't comprehend that. I feel that you need to really take this for what it is. This is a commercial profit endeavor. This is on a piece of land that is significant to our history and our indigenous tribe. And as I said, I work in medicine. There are other ways to get donations for research. And the lab that this company, that this nonprofit that has been funded by the McDowell family is now being touted as research is devastated after finding manipulated data in the study of pediatric brain tumors. So the people that are doing the research that this family has now said there's a cure, they're closer to a cure, has been now hit with fraudulent data. Okay, I want you to let that sink in. Purely, this is not the way to go with this project for all the previous reasons stated. I find it very, very insulting and very sad that the use of pediatric brain cancer research and 100% funding to that is playing on your heartstrings. You need to look at that separately. That's a whole other issue. Please deny this project tonight. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
There are no more hands raised on Zoom.
No other public comment from the gallery, so we will close public comment. Back to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. At this point, if you have any questions in regards to the project description, any questions in regards to the environmental impact report, we'll be happy to address.
To begin with, you have a response to the letter from Mark Wolf in your responses. I believe it's at 180 here in the packet. Could you briefly summarize for us some of the findings of your response letter to Mr. Wolf's letter?
Was there a specific section? I can't recall how long that letter was.
It was a pretty long letter, but Mr. Prado, as you put together the response, I was hoping you could provide a brief summary of those responses and those concerns.
Thank you. We're researching it right now, and we'll have the environmental consultant address that.
Okay.
Would you like to? Do you have any other questions in the meantime?
Yes, a few that I would like to ask for members of the public, or For the council representing the Amma Mutsun Band, is there an ethnographer or archaeologist that was involved with the ethnographic study that is available to speak with us this evening?
It was Sitha. She's unfortunately not, we're not prepared to have her speak.
Okay. Well, the one matter I wanted to speak to is
Let me just say briefly, Albion Environmental was under contract with the county to prepare the ethnographic study. It was requested by the Amma Mutsun Tribal Band, and it was paid for by the applicant. That study was paid for by the applicant.
So while I understand that there are definitely elements of this report that are, confidential, the one thing I would like to call attention to or ask from council, a section of this is transcribed notes from an ethnographic study that was academically published. I believe that therefore counts as a public record. Is that something that we can discuss?
I'm not prepared to address that.
Okay. It says it was published in Mutsun Ways issue number 3 of October 2016. I would like to go over that. It's basically the public interviews of Asensia and Solosano that were performed in 1920s and 1930s.
I think it's inappropriate for you to be discussing the contents of a confidential report, and I'd ask if you have questions about that, that you address it in a confidential manner with staff or consultants.
Okay. Do we have the responses to the other letter available?
Can I just say that we would be fine with Commissioner Devin Pack asking his questions?
Okay.
The tribe is here, so Joel, I don't want to override you, but.
All right.
Well,
hold on.
again, the reason for the confidentiality is to protect the information that was provided in the context of confidential tribal consultations between the county and the tribe. And
Can I offer a suggestion, which is perhaps you and I could counsel with Commissioner Devin Pack, understand the extent of his comments, and see whether they're appropriate for the public forum?
Perhaps we could address any other comments and then take a brief recess for that purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Are we prepared to respond to the first issue?
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Pat Angel. I'm the principal in charge from Ascent Environmental on the environmental document. I'm assuming you're referring to the letter from Mr. Wolf dated October 11th and are looking for a response from us in regards to the statements he makes in regards to the final EIR.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was confused when you were saying it because it sounded like staff had written something and I was just trying to get my bearings on that. I will say globally, his statements about, in reference to saying our responses to their comments was not adequate under CEQA, we respectively disagree. We provide the information in the good faith response. We cite the information. And in fact, several of the comments from his organization and others suggest some modifications to mitigation measures, which we made in the document in response. They did point out some good items that helped further strengthen the mitigation and the impact conclusions. There's a lot here. I'm happy to take any particular topic you like, but it was reviewed by our biologist, and she is comfortable that our responses were adequate. I reviewed it and consider our responses adequate and the information supported by substantial evidence in the record, but happy to take any particular item you're interested in.
Okay. All right. Well, I just kind of wanted to hear sort of the response to that. Sort of the next, so the area, the next question I have is for Council Ellenwood. The area of the easement, that is an area of the property that is sort of a floodplain area, is that correct? Or could you kind of describe the characterization of the easement area in terms of being alluvial or a floodplain?
We have an exhibit that was part of the presentation that shows the easement area. And yes, it is correct that that is within the 100-year floodplain of the, on the property owned by the McDowell Trust.
Okay, okay.
The extent of it is of the, if you can back up to the previous exhibit. There you are. That shows the entire area of the property.
Okay.
So essentially, the developed area of the property is outside the floodplain, and the remainder of the area, including the easement area, is within the 100-year floodplain.
Okay, okay, within the 100-year floodplain.
Commissioner Pack, do you have further questions at this time?
I do, but I'm willing to cede to other commissioners that have questions.
Commissioner Scagliotti.
I have one question, and it involves that easement. Who's responsible for maintaining the cleanliness of that easement? I mean, they want this easement. Who's going to keep it clean? It's right. Last time I went by, there was a weed patch. Who's going to keep it clean? They want this easement. Who's going to go in there and maintain the easement?
The holder of the easement would be responsible for that, as well as, since the property owner still has an interest in it, it's not they're not conceding their rights. So again, if the easement holder is not adequately protecting it, the property owner has ongoing rights to do that.
Okay.
Okay, who's going to enforce it?
It is enforceable.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Way?
I have nothing in particular. I've listened with interest to all of the comments, and I think I have a pretty clear understanding of the situation at hand, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Pack, did you have any final thoughts or comments?
Well, I had two different sort of lines of inquiry that I would like to see addressed. First, perhaps if the architect to the project could you speak towards the sort of the flood risks for the development area? That's the first question, and sort of, one area or topic that I'm interested in hearing about is, of course, a few years ago, Coyote Creek overflooded when we got a sudden intense rain. With regards to the gas station and also to the septic pool, what is there sort of in place in the planning to address the risk of, a 100-year flood or the Pajaro River having a sudden intense surge?
Thank you for the questions. So the gas station and all of the development is actually outside of the 100-year floodplain. Any on-site septic, any development that is for the parking, the paving, the buildings that we are proposing, they're all outside the 100-year floodplain. So there shouldn't be an impact. In fact, all of the stormwater retention ponds that we are now, because we're developing the site, is going to be brought back to the managed before the 100-year flood. So that way, you could see on the board, you have two stormwater retention ponds that's going to mitigate, flood managed to make sure that the water stays on site, it gets percolated back into the ground. So it's actually, per development, it's actually helping the situation. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I would say so. Also, could you just speak towards the containment measures with regards to the tanks? Oftentimes the environmental hazards with gas station, there's plans for both gasoline and diesel fueling facilities at the site? Is that, or is it only going to be gasoline pumps?
I believe it's just gas, but I'm going off memory, to be honest. The underground tanks are required to be double contained anytime that you go underground, and so they have to meet all the stringent requirements that are required for any and all gas stations. And during the construction document process, when we go for permits, for that specific area, all of those will be reviewed and complied with.
Okay, okay. Thank you. The next line of question is, now this is entirely whether Mr. Lopez or the counsel for the Amma Matsun Band is, to the degree that they're willing to answer the questions. There was mention in your comments about this a burial ground. Could you speak to what is known and what is historically documented?
Do you want to have a conference before we discuss anything that was in there, being that it's stamped confidential, I believe, on every page?
Certainly, if the counsel for the tribe wishes to address the question in a way that she feels is appropriate, then I would ask she do so.
I can reiterate what was included in the public environmental impact report for the project. There are at least 5 known specific tribal cultural resource sites within the project area or immediately adjacent to it. There are village sites known as Yurastak and Isleta, which are on the specific area proposed for development and would be directly impacted by the proposed project. There are also dance grounds associated with those village sites, associated with those developments. You can assume the types of activities that happened at those and what may result in the ground there. In addition, there are known viewshed impacts to the Bedabel Bluffs, which are to the west of the project, and the Medicine Man Hill, which are to the east. The project would interrupt the viewshed from significant tribal cultural sites. There's also 2 indirect projects within the property boundary, or resources within the property boundary that will be indirectly impacted. There's a traditional plant gathering area that's associated with the with a leader of the Mutsun people that is quite close to the project but not directly impacted. And then finally, there is the confluence of the Pajaro and the San Benito rivers and the associated La Poza pool, which is a really deep area with sacred powers and known for fishing and other ceremonial purposes. So that's what I can tell you based on what is in the public environmental impact report.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Can I just add one thing to that, which is that if there is going to be a caucus, a confidential caucus, that that the results of the Integrated Cultural Resources Survey, which I believe is also confidential, be reviewed. That also contains important on-the-ground information, including information related to the soil samples and borings that were actually taken. That be part of what you consider discussing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Pack.
Is Mr. Lopez willing to speak, or you're entirely free to decline this question if you do not wish to answer it? I understand if you consider it a sensitive question, so before I ask it. But what can you tell us about the traditional burial practices and burial sites of the Amma Mutsun, without specifying any particular sites, but are you willing to speak to us with regards to what practices there are, for the record?
Well, there was not one practice. There was a number of different practices depending on the location and the period of time. There was a period of time where they would do a flex burial, and that's where they would, basically fold the person and then bury them that way. There was another time when they would do cremation, and then there was another time when they would do reburials. I mean, near the site, near the site, and they would have actual cemeteries with multiple burials. There's other times where they would different periods of places of power. Now remember, in our territory, there's a number of tribes. There was, I forget, 12, 14 various tribes that made up the Amma Mutsun. And each tribe had its own burial practice and stuff like that. So I cannot tell you specifically what happened there at where the burial site is at now. So I couldn't answer, I couldn't tell you that. Because I said this is the most populated area north of Mexico City, you know, I mean, in the greater Monterey Bay, is that there are burials all over. There's burials throughout the area. And we find them all the time. I mean, I was at a site today where there's burials. I've gone through a lot of the, we've worked as Native American monitors at quite a few projects here in San Benito County.
Okay. To the degree that it is known, what is the largest publicly known burial site? Or, I mean, because you said there are multiple different kind of customs, and that it's not organized across any.
I
tribe.
think county council.
I think it's, we have no specific facts regarding any burial sites at this location, either from the Integrated Cultural Resources Survey or from the ethnographic study. It may be that they exist and could be discovered if there was disturbance of the ground. We have a mitigation measure that addresses that and would involve the tribe in recovery or dealing with burial sites should they be discovered.
And digging up the remains of our people is a violation of our spiritual belief and spiritual practice. So that right there would be a huge violation if it did happen.
But what you're saying is that there is no overwhelming, no prevailing custom of one way or another, burial in high places, burial in low places, cremation, burial. You say there's a wide variety of practices and techniques and locations.
Over time, I mean, they would they would do a certain type of burial for a while, and then it would change to cremation, and then it would change to something else. I mean, over a period of 13,000 years, it did. There were various practices applied.
Thank you. Commissioner Pack, do you have other questions that aren't skating on the edge of violating the confidentiality of this
Not
packet?
at this time.
Okay. Do any other commissioners have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions? Commissioner Scagliotti.
I have one question to the developer. Are you going to use any, when you begin construction, are you going to give the people of Hollister, San Benito County a chance to bid on some of this work that gets done out there?
I don't know that the
I'm just asking a question.
I don't have any specific information on that at this time, so I can't answer that question any better than that. So I don't know.
Okay.
I have a question.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
This is going to be for you, I'm sorry. The old site, how does it lay on the map? Like from what is being proposed and
the buildings that were torn down.
The building, yeah, everything that was torn down.
I don't have a specific layout, but it's generally in the project area, in the development area. The where the project is being built is in roughly the same area where the buildings were.
A smaller footprint, I would assume.
Well, it's sort of hard to get a handle on what the footprint was of all that stuff, but it's not going to be sprawled out like that. It's going to be an organized development.
I'm just trying to figure out how it lays with,
What you see in this picture is, well, the warehouse. That's where the farm stand is. Yeah. You want to take? Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, I think I can address this. So the metal building that is labeled as furniture warehouse, that's pretty much where the farm stand is built now. And then there's an existing roadway that kind of bisects the property that goes out to a existing nursery. And everything to the right of that, as you look on the plan, is where most of that is currently contained. Everything to the left of that, you get into the smaller areas where historically there was some kind of, I don't know if it was a car demo area, but if you go on Google Earth, you can see all sorts of old RVs and old cars that I think they were being worked on at some point, but so can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So this area right here that has the existing road, this is pretty much the extent of the metal building that was there, as well as some of the material that was this way. To answer your question, the motel and the outdoor pavilion event center are most likely outside of that, but the rest of it is clearly within the pre-developed area that the owner has went ahead and cleaned up and got.
Okay. Thank you. Any other? Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Following up on Commissioner Scaliotti's question, this is a question for County Council. Is it possible, if this were to go forward, to add a condition that would require the use of local contractors to some extent?
The commission is at liberty to add or modify any of the conditions of approval. The problem is to do so with a level of specificity that would be enforceable. You know, when you say to some extent, I don't know what that means, and it would be hard to hold the developer to a standard as vague as that. Private developers hiring of contractors practice varies widely, and we're not dealing with a conventional developer that has a history of developing commercial property where they, you know, have a established practice or could address that. So it's a particular.
We might have a response.
I'm not sure if I can fully answer the question, but for the Bedwell farm stand portion of it, there were local, contractors that were utilized. One of them was actually here tonight with me, and that's kind of how the process would go. Is that we would be putting construction documents together, we detail everything, it would go out to bid, and then obviously, the closer that a contractor is to the site, it's usually less expensive for them to get the project done. So I think there would be an advantage there, but I right now, no, there was not a mandatory thought process of at least 10% or so had to be involved for the existing farm stand that was done.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Scaliotti, any follow-up on that?
Not at this time, no, thank you.
Okay. Well, I will just comment that we did receive a great deal of information. Some of it was at the last minute. There were a lot of comment letters, and the responses were much appreciated. I thank staff for all the work that went into all of this paperwork that we have sitting in front of us. And I am asking the commission, what is the will of the commission? Is there a motion on the table?
Do we wish to have the in-camera session with council first in regards to the one question?
Oh, you still want to have a consultation with council?
If we could.
Okay. We can take a 5-minute recess.
Let's take a recess, and Ms. Clark and I, and perhaps Mr. Prowse, if Ms. Clark is okay with that, can confer with Commissioner Peck and see what is.
Can we make it a 10-minute break for the members of the public so that we can all tend to some business while you're chatting in the back?
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
counsel for the tribe and for the applicant without further public discussion.
We are back in session, and the discussion was had in the back room, and everyone is satisfied with whatever occurred back there. So we will call this back to order at 8:02. It was roughly an 11-minute break.
Mr. Chair?
Let me just point out for the record that the discussion was concerning confidential information that is not to be made available to the public concerning tribal cultural resources. It's not subject to the Public Records Act or to public discussion in the course of this proceeding, so it's also exempt from Brown Act consideration. There is one clarification that we'd like to make with regard to the response to the question about floodplains and I believe the underground storage tanks.
Casey is here to respond to that if it's okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So during the break, I was checking my notes, and to your Commissioner Pack's question, yes, the project is proposing gasoline as well as diesel. So I wanted to make that clarification, as well as, yes, the site is within the 100-year floodplain, and as a mitigation measure, we would be elevating 2 feet above the base flood elevation for the new buildings that would fall within that. So,
Thank you. So after the break, were there any additional comments, questions, or concerns that any of the commissioners have? No. Seeing none, is there a motion on the table?
I would like to suggest that we begin our discussions by bringing up the options, the page that has the options again, the 5 options that we have.
Okay. If you could speak into the mic if you have any suggestions regarding the alternatives mentioned in the EIR.
Well, I think that requesting the conditional easement, perhaps, to the Ama Mutsun tribe that is being offered.
Could you speak into the microphone, please?
The conservation easement agreement as a condition.
Oh, yes, that's part of the EIR. Okay. Did you want to discuss any of the alternatives 1 through 5, or?
Well, well, I wanted to see if anybody wanted to discuss any of the alternatives.
Is there another commissioner that would like to discuss one of those alternatives?
Okay.
Seeing none.
Okay, very good. Well, proceed with the, okay.
Okay, in that case, I will move to adopt Resolution 2022-11, a resolution to certify the EIR and to adopt a conditional use permit with the additional condition regarding reimbursement of expenses within 60 days. I couldn't find the language in the packet.
Revised condition number 8, staff invoices, and we believe we didn't print the first few pages that included them. Our apologies.
Okay. Is that clear for legal counsel? Okay. So there is a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All
Aye.
those noes?
No.
Okay, motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Way in the negative. Okay. Thank you.
4-1.
4-1, sorry. 4-1, Commissioner Way. That concludes the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Seconded?
Commissioner Pack seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 5-0 on the motion to adjourn. I thank you all for coming, and thank you for submitting your letters. Have a good evening.